So I'm going to do my best to describe evolution during the Denovian period of tetrapods. So, in the early Denovian, you had these big old fungi structures, some grasses, and mainly all life was still in the ocean. You had dermal armor still on fishes. They were developing many fins. There were non vascular plants, and there were a few hexapods on land and a couple flying insects. As time went on towards the mid Devonian, the ventral fins were reduced or absent. Ventral fins were reduced. Dorsal fins were either reduced or absent, and the caudal fin was reduced with increased vertebrae going towards the tail. They started to develop swamps and vascular plants, some like these that were tall and swirly. Then, as time went on, the first vascular plants, forests, and tall grasses were developing. And this was into the late Denovian. And this fish, he was looking around, Tiktaalik. You know what? I think that swamp over there might be a good place to live. And so it comes around, and it's got these nice extended nares, articulation of the pectoral fins. Oh my goodness, my phone. Eyes move towards the top of the head. Dermal armor reduced or completely absent at this point on most fishes. The head was flattened, and choana were formed, which are basically a way for them to move oxygen better through the nares into the gills. And they were able to breathe oxygen through them. So they got to these swampy areas, and they're like, you know what? Let's make a whole bunch of changes. And so they had these challenges to go against. You had gravity, UV radiation, reproduction, locomotion, thermal regulation, osmoregulation, communication. But the advantages? Less predation, oxygen was everywhere, more food because there was less competition. So then it started to get weird. They were like, you know what? I can develop a pectoral girdle, a pelvic girdle. So let's go ahead and use these carpals. Oh, shit, yeah. And they were like, all right, let's go ahead and get as many fingers as we can. 3, 5, 7, sure. And then you had differentiation of the life cycles. Eggs could be found in the swampy areas under logs. Then larvae could develop inside of the water. And then in the adult stage, depending on the species, they could go out of water or be semi-aquatic or completely aquatic. But sometimes, less predators around, they were like, hey, I'll be a predator and develop the teeth. But then some of them were like, hey, I don't like being on land. And they reverted. And they're like, I'm a fish again. So really, it was this big stride to try to become as many different things as they could in a very short amount of time. One of the advantages of having moved to the swamp was the region was warmer. It was a lot easier for them to reproduce. However, they did have to figure out how to reproduce on land, and so they wound up developing mammalian traits much later. And yeah, that's just kind of a short little video on early tetrapod evolution during the early to late Denovian period. Hopefully that was enjoyable. Bye-bye now.